I just gave Georgia the death penalty, and I'm going to rebuild them until I win a national championship. They've been the most successful program in recent years, winning the last 2 titles and gunning for their 3rd, but then news struck that they've broken multiple recruiting violations to do so. NIL allows players to get paid by sponsors now, but Georgia's been directly funding recruits to commit there, and the NCAA decided enough was enough. For the next 2 years, Georgia can't play a game, and that caused all of their players to transfer out. This is also a punishment for what they did to my Wildcats yesterday, and their athletic director wants to rebuild with nearby prospects, so the Bulldogs can only recruit in Georgia and South Carolina. And I'm not even sure if this rebuild's possible because Texas and Oklahoma are joining the SEC, which is going to make it even more difficult. Since we had to forfeit the rest of the year, the 2023 season ended with the Tar Heels winning it all, and everybody is officially gone from the program, but at least these 3 guys transferred in for another opportunity. We have to forfeit every game this season again though, and this is a nightmare for me because I am just a level 1 head coach, and that's going to make recruiting a lot harder for me. I don't really know how good everybody is because I can only scout 25%, and we're also going to lose a lot of battles because I can only put a maximum of 500 points on every prospect. With our few transfers on the roster, this team is a 21 overall, and I can understand why we're losing battles for the best players. Only being able to go after players from South Carolina and Georgia makes things very tough, but thankfully I got a coach upgrade that goes right in the scouting, and now I'm going to find out that our top quarterback target, Nick Russell, is a 74. Landing the 4-star from South Carolina is our #1 priority this season, but by about midway through the year, I haven't been able to get any of these guys to commit, and I can't schedule them for visits since we don't have any games. In week 10, I was finally able to convince a few players to come here, but they're not great, and even though we can't play a game, I'm going to get fired, so all of my progress in this coach tree is going to reset, and if you take a look at the guys that we're still going after, they're nothing more than about average. I have no clue how we're going to survive the SEC, and Coastal Carolina just overtook us on Nick Russell, so I'm just glad we're going to have a chance to get him in off-season recruiting, and you're going to see that we've been able to land a lot of low overall prospects throughout the season, and David Beck's the best one. The 72 overall cornerback from South Carolina just came here to get some playing time, and if you were wondering who won the first 12-team playoff, of course it was an SEC school. I have a feeling I'm going to get fired a lot in this video, and we actually got a lot of transfer requests, but they're all terrible. That's why it's so important that we land Eric Johnson and Nick Russell, and I'm so happy to see that both of their names are yellow. I'm not sure how this is even possible, but the game says we signed the 18th best class in the country, and I'm going to question it because we only signed 3 players that were a 70 overall or higher. It also doesn't help that during the offseason, one of our best players regressed 4 overalls, and I have no clue how we're going to win any games with a roster that looks like this. My one hope is that we're able to take down FCS school Chattanooga, and I'll probably make sure that that's our main visit week. It is nice that South Carolina and Georgia are already pipelines, but we're back to square one when it comes to scouting, which is frustrating. It's a bit surprising, but we're not supposed to be the worst team in the country, and I don't know how since we're 57 overall. You can pretty much expect all of our results to be blowouts, and it's only taken Nick Russell 1 game to throw 5 interceptions. As you can expect, against South Carolina it wasn't pretty, and this death penalty has really set us back a lot. Because of it, I think Florida's going to end up beating us out for 80 overall defensive end Skylar Horn, and I'm just hoping that we're able to keep it close against Chattanooga. Going into it, we obviously still haven't been able to get a win, but at least we landed a punter and JUCO defensive tackle Nigel Hall. We need him on the line since we're not going to get Skylar Horn, and I tried to load into the game against Chattanooga, but it kept crashing, so now we're playing against the Citadel, who's the exact same overall. Now, I am a bit surprised that our stadium isn't packed out, but I guess because of the death penalty, we have lost a lot of fans, and nobody's getting open. Well, I can't believe I ever thought we had a chance. It has not been a good game, and I guess that is expected with this roster, but it's been very rough. It would honestly be a victory just to get on the board, and Josh Chandler broke the press. That was all it took to give us a little bit of momentum. We have turned it around here at the end of it, and our defense even got a pick 6, but we need to get into the end zone, and we do. The real question will now be, can we get a stop? And here on 3rd and 9, they are going with the pass. The drag is open. That is as well. So that ruined our comeback hopes, and I'm hoping next season we put up a better showing. It's a bit surprising we lost to an FCS school, and that made Matt Birch want to commit, but I'm not complaining because this 3-star can hit extremely hard. I doubt any of you all are going to be surprised that we finished the season 0-12. And yes, Nick Russell threw twice as many interceptions as he threw touchdowns, but I can't even blame him because his receiving options weren't good, and Charles Parker averaged 3.4 yards per carry. I'm hoping that with JUCO wide receiver commit Randy Macklin, our offense can get a bit better, but it's going to be difficult because I'm getting fired again. If we're ever going to make the playoffs, I have a lot of work to do, and I can't believe we're a 2-star school. The only good news is our only graduates are going to be walk-ons, and we finally got a transfer that'll actually help us. If we could finish off-season recruiting by landing Rob Houston, I'd be stoked, and we also got Reggie Peterson and Mark Sampson alongside him. I know the game says that this class is worse than last year's, but I don't think it is because we have more players over 70 overall, and I think there's a lot of depth as well. I love the fact that we can now put a starting lineup out there that doesn't contain a single walk walk-on, and Rob Houston actually becomes a 76 overall halfback, so he's definitely starting for us, and I'm also going to make punter Chris Archie a kicker. I'm really hoping that our off-season training goes well, and I'd say it did, as cornerback Antoine Jackson is up to an 89 overall. He might be the only guy on the roster that's an SEC caliber player, but we have 2 FCS schools on the schedule this year, so surely we'll turn it around. We also now have the depth of redshirt players, which is going to make a big difference for our future, and I just have to hope that some of these prospects from South Carolina and Georgia turn out to be really good. Going into the year, we're obviously projected to finish last in the SEC, and as a 68 overall team, we've actually gone down 1 ranking, but I'm confident at some point this season we will get Georgia their first win since the death penalty. In fact, it could be this week versus Grambling State, and their logo looks like they ripped it right off of ours. Before we do that though, I have to mention, if we can get all of these guys, our recruiting class will be the best one yet, and it's very important we don't go out and embarrass ourselves. We are playing against an FCS school, so I'd like to think we'll come out on top, but that is not a given. We did score first though, and now they're on a 3rd and goal where hopefully we'll get the stop. Everybody is clamped up, and this is what we needed. I like to see our terrible defense getting some pressure in, and I've kind of just been letting Rob Houston go to work on this defense. They have forced us to a 4th and goal though, and we are going to get in. So talk about a start for Nick Russell. He's also going to throw up a 50-50 ball to Josh Chandler, and that is a small corner. We're going to catch it, and evidently I need to let him go to work like this more often. It's nice that this team does have a few bright spots on it, and we're going to get our first win with Georgia since getting the death penalty against Grambling State. That's really all I wanted to accomplish this season, because I know that against most of the SEC schools, they're still going to blow us out. It also sucks that South Carolina is going to beat us out for Tom Brady's nephew, but we're getting another crack at beating the Citadel, and I have quite a few prospects visiting for this one. As you can see, the stands are starting to get a little bit fuller, but since approaching halftime, we have 0 points. That's probably going to change in the future. I'm throwing up another 50-50 ball to Josh Chandler, and he gets it done. What's crazy about this one is it deflected off the cornerback's head into his hands, and I should have just force-fed him the ball every play, because with 2 minutes left, we are down by 3 to the Citadel, and that's pretty embarrassing. I'm just going to hand it off to Rob Houston. We need to at least get in field goal range. He's going to juke inside and get caught. I'd love to score a touchdown and win in a walk-off fashion, but we've been struggling all day. On 3rd and inches, I'm going to have to throw it away, and this is very risky to go for it here, but I would rather win than go to overtime. We still have 32 seconds left, so there's still plenty of time, and Stephen Walker just created plenty of separation, so we're inside the 10, and it's going to come down to these final 4 plays. I doubt they're going to expect me to keep it with Nick Russell, so that's what we're going to do, and they were all over it, but I have faith in Rob Houston to punch it in, and he does. That is a massive touchdown for the freshman, and we've already won 2 games. I'm hoping that's enough for me not to get fired for the 3rd time, and I just found a gym in wide receiver Patrick Gatewood, who's a 77 overall. We're going to lose a lot of games, and we're also going to probably lose a lot of recruiting battles, but what's important is we continue to land key prospects like Jake Browning and Patrick Gatewood, because that's what's going to make a difference over the next few seasons. In fact, week 9 was our biggest week for us, and not because we got pounded by Florida, but because we landed 2 77 overall linebackers that are going to be the face of our defense. I'd also love to add Brian Brown and Kevin Terrell into that list, but we're in very tight battles for both of them, and these embarrassing losses aren't going to help us. Like expected, ever since we started 2-2, we've been on a 7-game losing streak, and it looks like I'm set to get fired again, but what if I could save my job with this rivalry game? I think pulling off an upset here would shock everybody, and you can tell that this one means a ton to the fans. It took giving Georgia the death penalty to make it interesting again, but now we have a chance to go out and beat Georgia Tech. We're going to find Chandler, and if I need to make sure that I feed him all day, I will do that because he is so dominant. We're also going to need some defensive stops to keep up with the Yellow Jackets though, and they've keyed in on stopping Josh Chandler, so I'm not sure what our odds are looking like. He is not going to win this 50-50 ball, and that puts us down 21-7, but I don't want to give up quite just yet, except now we throw another interception. No way that he just broke that tackle as well. Somebody please bring him down. Nick Russell had the right idea in mind with the open receiver, but the defender made an amazing play, and it's a bit surprising we're still in this game, but I will take our chances. Again, this could be the difference between me keeping my job or getting fired, and our defense is going to give up the deep post over the middle. That is massive. We would have been able to stop them, but instead they get a field goal, and here on 4th and 6, I know they're sending the house, but I'm not going to get it out in time. I hate losing to Georgia Tech, so next year I can promise they won't be this happy on our field, and I legitimately think we'll be able to beat them because we continue to get amazing players like Chancey Brown. I can't believe that South Carolina is the dominant team in the SEC right now, but they wouldn't go on to win it all as Notre Dame did instead, and I can't believe I've been fired for a 3rd time already. Stat-wise, Nick Russell didn't throw as many interceptions, and I think Rob Houston has made a big addition to our running back room, but besides him and Josh Chandler, nobody really stands out on offense, and that's now made us a 1-star school. It is going to be very hard to turn this program around, and it doesn't help that Antoine Jackson wants to graduate early, but I'm not going to let him do that. This guy's the only good defensive player we have, and I convinced him he's not good enough for the next level, so he'll be back, and hopefully Brian Brown and Kevin Terrell will be joining him. These 3 commits alone are going to make our defense so much better, and again, I have no clue why our class is ranked so high up here at number 10, but I just noticed noticed that as I'm scrolling through these players, Ross Dotson is from Ohio, so I'm gonna have to cut him. When I made a new head coach, the computer auto-signed him, and to make sure the game lets me get rid of him, I'm just gonna move him over to fullback so he's easier to cut. I also found a few other players that snuck on from other states, so I don't know if it's because they were walk-ons or what, but all of these guys are getting cleared out. I've also noticed that I can move around all of our new recruits to positions where they're even better. So yes, we have a 5'9" guy playing left end, and Brian Brown is gonna make for an amazing user over the middle. Now it's time for my favorite part of every season, and I love to see players like Josh Chandler and Matt Birch continue to improve, but I think Rob Houston just lost his starting job to Mark Wallace. In the future, anytime I notice the computer sign somebody that's not from our 2 states, I'm just going to make sure we cut them, but we are going to be stuck with some walk-ons when we can't fill a position. Between them and some transfers, our team isn't fully built out of South Carolina and Georgia just yet, but they're the only 2 pipeline states we have, and that means that this year there are 246 recruits we can go after. This year, I'm going to be extremely desperate for a quarterback, and I'm going to have to hope that one of them's a Jim because none of these guys are high overalls. It's definitely a problem that if Nick Russell goes down, there's nobody to back him up, and I have no idea how this season's gonna go. We are up to a 75 overall, but we're still supposed to be one of the worst teams in the country, so obviously we're still projected to finish at the bottom of the SEC, and on the road at Arkansas in our season opener, we are going to get blown out. The only positive I can see is my scouting abilities are already maxed out, and that allowed me to figure out that David Webb's a 71 overall and Lee Johnson's a 74. Ideally, I'd like to get both so we have some more quarterbacks, and I have to get 6'6" athlete Charles Jenkins because this guy would be an amazing receiver. Going through this year, those players are going to be our main focuses, but very quickly I learned that we're not going to get some of the players I wanted. I do believe we can beat Mississippi State though, so I think it's very important that we play this game because all of the fans are still showing up, and a win might be all it takes to actually build up some momentum again, but I don't see anybody that's open. It's sad to say this, but approaching halftime, it's 3-0, and I had to go for it on 4th and 2. There's the freshman, and Mark Wallace just came up big time for us because we have not been able to move the ball. Another freshman, Patrick Gatewood, just got blown up, but I love that Mark Wallace is now starting at halfback, and he is smooth with it. I don't know what he did in the offseason to go up 7 overalls, but he is a beast, and he's going to fight in, or we're going to have to take a timeout, and now we're going to find out if he has the speed to hit the outside, and he doesn't. That is the worst ending to the first half possible, because we didn't score a single point, and right now our offense makes Iowa's look good. We have still not scored. It is 2nd and 27. Josh Chandler does not catch it, and eventually to end the 3rd quarter, I think we're going to get in, but this has been rough. Our defense can only do so much, and no matter what happens here, we are going to give up at least a field goal unless we can get the interception, which we won't do. Somehow Mississippi State's kicker missed it though, so we are still only down by 6, and this could be our chance to go down the field and win. Here on 3rd and 9, everything looks locked up. I'm going to take it to Mark Wallace, and he does not go anywhere. So I hate to do this, but we are going to punt the ball back to Mississippi State and trust our defense who's been getting stops all day, and this is going to pin them back pretty far if Terrell could have just made a tackle there. On 1st and 10, they do go with the pass, and I was not expecting that at all. We had everybody in the box. They didn't go with the run, so I'd say the game is pretty much all over, but they're passing it, and it's off target. We just need their kicker to choke, and he's not going to this time, and since we still have 2 timeouts remaining, we are not out of this one yet if we score quick enough. The problem is I'm not sure we're going to be able to. This throw could have got us into field goal range, but it's intercepted by Smith instead, and Nick Russell's been so disappointing with another off-target pass. It stinks that we weren't able to get the win here, but we can still jump into 2 more this season, and I'm confident we can take down Central Arkansas and Sim, so I'm scheduling every prospect for a visit against the FCS school, and this could be a dynasty-changing result for us, which it is. We win by 14, and that was enough to get Lee Johnson to commit to us over Appalachian State. He's a 74 overall with 88 throw power, so he has a pretty good arm on him, and I also think JUCO fullback Tyson Baldwin's going to make for a good tight end. Even if we're in some tight battles right now, I'm happy with how recruiting is going, but I think we all know that Tennessee is going to humble us very quickly. The same could be said for Alabama because I know we just don't stand a chance, but I actually have a little bit of hope with us traveling to 0-6 Vanderbilt. They're only 2 overalls better than us, and their home crowd didn't show out for this game, so I'd say it's time for us to go out and show them that we have improved. Stephen Walker's going to hit him with his burners, and to end the first half, we're going to hand the ball off to Mark Wallace. To make matters even worse for Vanderbilt, they might take a safety because they had a holding call and then a sack, but no way he just busted that to the crib. Okay, I don't want to talk about it. That is the most depressing thing that could have happened there. And wow, he set an NCAA record for the longest run. If we end up losing this game because of that, I'm going to be so upset. But if you remember, I moved safety Brian Brown to linebacker, and that was a great decision. He couldn't make the tackle there, but we did bring him down, and no way he just got up from that. Somebody just get him down. I don't know what this running back is on, but it is clear that Georgia is not supposed to have any success. They want us to be terrible forever, and Wallace is doing a good job himself. I really thought Rob Houston was going to be the future, but he regressed during the offseason, and now we're about to score again. This could be our first win over an SEC school since the death penalty, and it being Vanderbilt would be so fitting. Here on 3rd and 10, I have everything usered. We should have gotten a sack, but we are going to get the interception with Carson Beck. And never mind, this is his long-lost brother David, because the original Carson Beck transferred out of this program after we got the death penalty, but we are going to win, and Wallace is so good. He is fighting for even more yards. It is a good day to be a Bulldogs fan, but Wallace needs to be getting more than 9 carries per game, so we're going to change the offense to a spread. Just like last year, I put Grambling State on the schedule, and I did that with the expectation that we would go out and beat them, which we're going to do by 16. With a lot of guys visiting during that game, I was able to get them to commit, and that includes 74 overall Derek Robinson, but we're still in tight battles for Dave Webb and these 2 guards that we really need, so I'm not satisfied with this class yet, and at Florida, we're going to lose by 14. We obviously stand no chance in winning the SEC, but if we can beat Auburn, we're still going to be bowl eligible, and that is what's going to happen. We're going to have to keep it up against my favorite team, though, and if I'm going to play either game, it's going to be at Georgia Tech, so I have to sim and we lose. That's unfortunate, and I'm surprisingly not on the hot seat, so since the year's already over, we're going to skip the Georgia Tech one. On the road, we get thrashed, and I can't believe that Antoine Jackson almost won the Thorpe Award. He had 9 interceptions in his senior season, which is insane, and I also love to see all of our other defensive freshmen having success, but offensively, even with 5 interceptions, Nick Russell wasn't great, and due to Mark Wallace getting injured, Rob Houston got more action than he expected. Receiving wise, it really was only junior Josh Chandler that stood out, and I was not expecting to see Virginia Tech as the national champion. It feels good to not get fired after one season for the first time, and we're only losing a few guys, but Antoine Jackson is a big loss. The transfer's the first player to get drafted since we got the death penalty, and nobody's transferring in anymore. It does suck, but I'm gonna have to pass up on James White to make sure we keep building our offensive line, and according to the rankings, this is the worst class we've had yet, but this is the most players over 70 overall that we've ever had, and Lee Johnson is going to be a good player for us in the future. Him and athlete Sidney Hand are going to make our quarterback room decent again, and Tyson Baldwin only becoming a 71 overall tight end is very disappointing. I love to see that Nick Russell and Josh Chandler are going to be beasts going into their senior year, and I'm pumped up because I think this is the season that we go out and we make a bowl game. I'm also going to do my best to start going after some of the top athletes in Georgia and South Carolina again, and we only have 13 seniors, so I don't have to replace that many players. For the first time in this rebuild, we're actually not projected to finish last in the SEC, and I know we're only a 77 overall team, but we are seeing some progress. We're probably not going to beat number 7 Arkansas in our first game, but that's okay, because I've already found our future quarterback in 77 overall, Adam Morris. To be honest, all around the recruiting class is looking very good, assuming that we land most of these guys, and against Mississippi State on the road, we are going to go out and get a big win. Nick Russell is slinging it 51 times, but I still don't think we have any chance at South Carolina, and that was proven there. Since we're still going to struggle for a bit, everyone's coming for a visit against the Citadel, and I just don't see how we could lose now that we've upgraded so much, which is the case. Thankfully, that was all it took to get Adam Morris to commit to our school, and we beat out Georgia Tech for him, but they're making it very hard for us to get a kicker. Obviously, on the road at Tennessee, I'm not expecting us to win, but we actually do, and now that we've done that, I am holding another visit week. Upsetting number 12 Alabama would put us back on the map, but what I've really quickly realized is stopping their offense is almost impossible. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nate Russell could have had a better game, but he's playing against a tough defense, and it's got him rattled as he has been missing throws like that all day. We're not going to get anywhere here, and it's just been ugly on offense. I'm hoping that this team is still capable of making it to a bowl game, but I've very quickly learned that our defense is not where it needs to be, especially compared to last year's, as they just continue to run. Eventually, we'll be able to beat Alabama again, and until then, we'll just face off against schools like Vanderbilt, where you know that we're going to go out and get the dub. I think we all know that we're not very capable of taking down the number 1 team in the country, but it was close, and I'm starting to see why this championship contenders tab is projecting us to be a top 25 team in a couple of seasons. Beating Auburn would be nice since they're one of our rivals, but it is going to be tough to do on the road, and I'm just expecting for us to take down Central Arkansas, which we don't do. These are not the stats I was expecting out of a team trying to make a bowl game, but now we have no choice but to play these last 2, and I can't believe my Wildcats are ranked 11. I don't want to ruin their success, but we desperately need to get a win in this game, so that's what we're gunning for, and what a catch from Walker. He made sure to put himself in the right position, and now I'm going to look for him again down here on the goal line, but they boxed it all up, so I'm just going to have to run with Nick Russell, who doesn't get in. For how he came into the program, he has done a good job, but I'm excited to have a new one next year, and we'll definitely notice a downgrade at the quarterback position early on, but after that, I think it'll be even better. With about 2 minutes, unfortunately, our offense has struggled, so we're down by 3, but we're looking to hold them here on 3rd and 5, and that isn't going to happen. I don't understand why after the second quarter, we just couldn't move the ball at all, but all I know how to do is to try and sling it. That defensive tackle got in so quick, I'm going to have to escape with Nick Russell, and why is he stiff-arming him? He deserved to fumble it. We obviously didn't get the result that we wanted, but I'd like to end the year beating Georgia Tech anyways, and we can't embarrass ourselves in front of this home crowd. Even if we get off to a good start, that didn't seem to matter much against Kentucky, but it definitely wouldn't hurt, and that is what we're going to do. It's kind of worked out as we've maintained that 1 possession lead, but they're looking to get get a stop here on 3rd and 9, and we're going with the deep post. Look at Walker. I don't know how he has done so well for us recently, but the senior is clearly sick of losing, and I'm going to look right back in him in the end zone for a touchdown. That ended up being enough to help us secure the win, and that's the last time Nick Russell will take the field for us. This is an amazing ending to his career, especially since he led the country in passing yards, but it's super depressing that he wasn't ever able to even make a bowl game. Mark Wallace also took a step back, which isn't great news, but we did pass the ball more, and don't ask me how we only had 1,000-yard receiver. Josh Chandler is another guy that's also going to be missed, but if we can ever make the playoffs, they're the ones that pave the way for us to do that. Notre Dame's already won 2 championships on this file, and even though we're starting to do better, my job security is still low. I can't afford to get fired if we have a bad upcoming season, so it stinks that we're losing so many different players to graduation, but at least we're putting people back into the NFL again. It sucks we got locked out of Brian Harris, but now I can focus on landing these other 3 prospects, and thankfully I did that successfully, which resulted in us getting the 13th best class in the country. I think it's our best one yet though, because there's so many of these guys in the high 70s, and we only recruited out of 2 states. It'll be interesting to see which of these 4 guys is starting for us next year, but that all comes down to off-season training, and Chad Sanders is going to be a beast left end. Here we go. It's time for the moment of truth, and I'm seeing a lot of guys that didn't go up very much. It's so disappointing to see that 4 of our 5 safeties regress, but until we start getting results on the field, that's going to be our reality, and I just have to hope that freshman Adam Morris is here to save us. Since we lost a lot of guys though, we're coming in as a 79 overall, and we're barely projected to be in the top half of teams. It doesn't help that we play in the toughest conference by far, but maybe Adam Morris will have an amazing debut. It's going to be tough on the road at Arkansas, but he does seem to have quite the cannon on him. He can fit it into any tight hole if he needs to, and that's going to be a great catch, and it's a good thing that we are set to get off to a good start. We're about to score another touchdown, and I don't want to jinx it so early on, but it does feel like our defense has taken a major step forward, as that should have been a pick. Even though it wasn't though, they've still done very well, and with about 3 minutes remaining, we're up by 12, so it would be hard to lose this game, but we don't pick up the 4th down, and after that, they've moved it down the field decently well, but we've gotten them to a 4th and 10 where they're going to break the sack. It's thrown up though, and it is knocked away. It definitely should have been caught, but a win's a win, and Mark Wallace had 4 touchdowns in this opener. As for recruiting, just like last year, we only have 12 seniors, but we are losing some big positions, so I'm mainly going after offensive guards and getting ourselves multiple different halfbacks. It will be 10 times easier to land them though if we continue to win, and that's what we do against South Carolina. So I'm excited to see how Adam Morris continues to progress, and it's huge that we can start to put more points into different players. Getting fired so many times has really set back our progress for a while because it's made recruiting so much more difficult, but I'm hoping that bonus can help us a ton, and to be honest, I am already looking forward to next week's game against Texas, and we beat Georgia State. Basically, every big recruit on our board is coming for this game against the Longhorns, and that does put a lot of pressure on us, so I guess I shouldn't really be surprised that our freshman quarterback has struggled and our defense has also been atrocious. I mean, it'd be nice to get points on the board, but we really need to find the end zone, and Rob Houston not picking up number 58 is a big deal. He's only in because Mark Wallace has been having back spasms, but that difference alone has meant that we have scored 0 points against the Longhorns, and it's rough. Adam Morris has definitely been humbled with 3 interceptions, and I can't believe with a performance like that, these 4 players committed to our school. Last year, we were able to take down the Volunteers, so I'm hoping the same is true for this season, but it's not, and we really need Mark Wallace back. I also don't love to see that we lost halfback Albert Booth to Miami, but I can't even blame him because we've been playing bad the past couple weeks until we beat Alabama. By the way, in case you were wondering, it was because Mark Wallace played and scored 2 touchdowns, so for the first time since getting the death penalty, we are ranked in the top 25, and I have the utmost confidence in this team to go out and rail Vanderbilt, which we don't do, but a win is still a win. This turnaround has been remarkable as we are competing for a spot in the SEC championship, but the Gators were the reigning runner-ups last year, and I hate to play so aggressive, but if we're going to pull off the upset, that's exactly what we're going to have to do. That drive did result in a touchdown, but ever since then, we haven't done much. I'm going to find Brad Turner here, and it feels like we're about to tie it up, but we're going to have to find our way into the end zone. The good news is no matter what happens, I haven't left much time on the clock for the Gators, and that's a first, which means we get a new set of downs, and that's going to result in a touchdown. I am very happy with the score being this at the half, and we've also had a strong drive to open up the 3rd quarter. I couldn't get the ball out here though, and of course Florida just forced a fumble. The only explanation to Adam Morris dropping the ball is because it had to be super wet, and if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'd know I hate playing in the rain on this game. Fortunately, with about 2.5 minutes remaining though, we are only down by 3, and that's a tight window, so I wish Adam Morris would have looked elsewhere, but you know what? He's kept us in this game, and now he's going up to our speed demon who did not create any separation. Brad Turner has 96 speed, so you want to trust him in those situations, but these Gator corners are clearly elite, and we should have known better. That is a pick right back though, or not. Kevin Terrell couldn't hold on. Again, that just gives me another thing that I can blame the rain on, but we're going to get a stop here, and the implications of this game for our season are massive. We just need to hold them, which is exactly what we've done. Adam Morse as a freshman could make a massive difference here, but sophomore Brad Turner has been incredibly disappointing. This is one of the most important games we could play in this dynasty, and we need to go to other players because with the game on the line, I just don't trust him in those situations. So let's go to Nate Wallace instead, our star halfback who is going to get us to the 40. We are inching up on field goal range, though we do have a freshman kicker, so we have to keep that in mind as well. And you know what? We should not be going for a tie. We need to be going for the win. There's only about 40 seconds left, but Adam Morse is going to keep it. He's going to make a couple guys miss, and so much is on the line with time winding down. So I'd prefer if Rob Houston wasn't in the game. His jersey is clean for a reason. We're going with him on the halfback screen though, and he has the speed to jump into the end zone. This team might have lost to Texas by 35. It might only be a 79 overall, but assuming we knock this down, it is all over, and we've won our division if we can win out. Adam Morse is going to be a stud for a long time, and I've already jumped into 3 games this season, so I have to sim the rest. But before we see how the rest of the year plays out, a word from today's video sponsor, Prize Picks. With football going on, this is the best time to get the app, and you can play in over 30 states, so there's a good chance yours is eligible. Anyways, you're probably wondering what Prize Picks is, and on there you simply pick 2 to 6 players and higher or lower on their projections. You can win up to 25 times the money if you're right, and I love using it while I watch football, so if you want some free cash to start out with, code BOARD will double your initial deposit up to $100, which means if you put in 20, you get 40, and they have every sport that you can think of, so you might as well take advantage of that. Now we have to sim the rest of our games, but with our remaining 4 matchups looking like this, I have the utmost confidence in this team. I don't think we beat Auburn last year though, so I am worried about this one a little bit, and you've got to be kidding. The other ones were always going to be fine because my favorite school also beat us, and I guess it doesn't matter that we're a basketball school. We also lose to Georgia Tech. I'm not even excited to see all these yellow names because even though we have landed pretty much every single player that we wanted, we just finished an amazing season in the worst way possible. Adam Morse wasn't injured either as he played in all 3 of these games, and I guess freshman Roger Kersten did get hurt, but there's no reason we should have dropped all 3 of those and fallen out of the SEC championship. I felt like we were overachieving a bit, but that was extremely humbling, and now I'm just ready to see how Adam Morse does as a sophomore. Just like the previous season, Mark Wallace finished with 10 rushing touchdowns, but I think the more surprising part was he almost led the team in receptions and yards. As for our defense, freshman Chad Sanders led the team in sacks with 5.5, and I'm so bummed out our season is ending in the Liberty Bowl. I mean, at least we're gonna win it, but I just wanted to make the playoffs, and it's hard looking in from the outside when you see a team like Georgia Southern almost win it all. I am glad that I wasn't fired and I got an extension instead, but it stinks to lose a player like Matt Birch, and I'm just glad the rest of the guys that graduated weren't very solid. I mean, no offense to Rob Houston, but his career ended up being a disappointment, and I think we're gonna take a massive leap forward in the offseason with another top 13 class. Now, we weren't able to find a perfect halfback, but Greg Thomas becomes a 73 and Mike Johnson becomes a 79. So once Mark Wallace graduates, we should be fine, and these training results could be amazing or terrible. I think they turned out all right though because Adam Morse and Mark Wallace are at the top of it, but I have been surprised at how little Brian Brown's developed. That hasn't stopped us from improving as we're projected to finish 2nd in our division, and we're not going to start in the top 25, but we're just outside of it. This team is an 86 overall, so I expect us to do well, and I think I forgot to show it for a bit, but all of our players are from South Carolina or Georgia. It's been hard scouting in just these 2 states, but the program has gotten a lot better, and at Missouri, to open it up, we're going to win by 10. I don't like seeing that Adam Morse threw 4 interceptions, but as long as we continue to get results, I don't really care. We're in a position right now where it seems like we could get all of these high overall recruits, and we're playing well on the field, so it seems like the turnaround that we needed has finally come. Against Mississippi State. We lose by 11 though, and I don't understand that at all because up to this point, they hadn't won a game this season. I think it'll be best if everybody visits against Alabama, but before that matchup, we have to play against Tennessee, who's 2-2, and it seems like almost everybody in the SEC is such low overalls, which is why we're winning. Even the top 25 is pretty surprising, but I guess we're like 8 or 9 seasons into a dynasty file, and we should be able to at least make the playoffs. This game would definitely help us get in though, so it's good to see that ending the first half, we're up by 4 and we're driving and we're going to score a touchdown. Brad Turner, who was terrible last year, made the catch, and here on a 3rd and 10 midway through the 3rd quarter for the Crimson Tide, I'm going to try to use her everything and we get the sack. I really trust in this defense if we've only held them to 13 points, and we're going to continue to move it down the field. So I'm still wondering how we lost to Mississippi State because we feel like we're so solid. That throw's beautiful, but Alabama just won't go away. There's only a few minutes left and they're going to score a touchdown, which means they could tie it up with the 2-point conversion, and they're going to do it. We should have always known that it was going to be a close finish against them. I'm going to hand it off to Wallace though, and since we've been running more of an air raid offense, he doesn't get many touches, but all of our receivers do, and on this play, I think Roger Kersten's about to get wide open. There's nobody in that corner, and we are going to be able to get to the 35. All we really need is a field goal, so I'd like to get a little bit closer, but this run run is going to seal it, because even though we have a young kicker, I trust that he can hit it from here, and I don't think icing us is gonna work. It literally couldn't be an easier kick for Tompkins to put down the middle, and once again, Adam Morse has taken down Alabama. Of course, when you get a result like that, pretty much every prospect that you could ever want commits to your school, and we're only in 2 more battles for players that I'd really like. We've also made it back into the AP top 25, and Vanderbilt's having a much better season, going 3-3, but they shouldn't have beaten us. Their quarterback literally completed 37% of his passes, and it's a good thing Florida's coming off of a loss because we can still win our division. Just like us last year, they weren't able to take down Auburn, and it is a very even matchup, but after losing to Vanderbilt, I'm kind of expecting the worst. I don't know why every single time we play the Gators, it's on a neutral field, but I guess that's better than playing in the swamp, and what a deep post to Coleman. It kept our opening drive alive, and now we're in a position where we should score a touchdown. The crosser is getting open, and now it just depends if Mark Wallace is fast enough to outrun the Gator defense. It didn't take long for our defense to force an interception, which is a really good thing. We are going to almost throw one back though, and I guess it's time to see if our sophomore kicker can hit from 50, which he seems to be able to do. Compared to last year, this is going much smoother for us, and we're about to go up by 3 possessions on Florida. If we can get in here, Morris breaks 1 tackle and fights for more. He is making great strides forward as a sophomore, and I can't even imagine what he's going to be like by the time he's a junior. Now that throw was a little disappointing, but because we're up by so much, I can take risks like going for it, and that was the right decision. Our defense just didn't crack today until the end of the game, which is why we won by so many points, and I'm hoping we can actually finish the season strong this time. If we win out, I'd assume we'd make the playoffs, and we're also going to make the SEC championship, but some stuff has to go our way, and if I learned anything, it's to play the Auburn game. We're on the road, which is going to make it even more difficult, but by the way we just embarrassed Florida, we shouldn't have too many issues. I mean, we haven't scored the most points in the world, but we have held them to 7, which is really important, and I'm hoping this 4th and inches drop doesn't come back to bite us, but I don't think it will because we're up by 17. It is 3rd and 10, and they are going to throw us an interception. I got a little too excited there since Dustin Thompson decided he didn't want to hold on to it, but here on 4th and 10, they go with the halfback screen, and that tackle wasn't good enough. It's no surprise that that drive ended with a touchdown, but we recovered the onside kick, and here on 3rd and 7, I feel like they got to get aggressive, so I think we'll have somebody deep. I should have gone with the curl. It was open, and the safety faked me out, so I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. That is ball game. All we have to do now is beat Kentucky and Georgia Tech, so I'd hate to see them end our season, but I've also already played 3 games, so I can't jump in to control it, and Kentucky is fighting for a playoff spot too. I don't like that we have to play at Kroger Field, but here we go, and that's a 17-point win. Adam Morse actually decided to rise to the occasion, and that means that no matter what happens now, we have made the SEC championship, but I'd also love to beat our rivals Georgia Tech, and we do by 35. As of right now, the playoff picture's looking really weird as there's some teams up here that you would never expect to be, and hopefully we can take down the Longhorns. The last time we played them, I remember losing by 35 points, so I'd love to not be embarrassed today. Here on 3rd and 12, they're going to dump it off though and pick up the 1st down. So I'm glad that we were eventually able to hold them to just a field goal, which is going to doink off the upright. I saw that coming from a mile away, and that might be the difference maker if this game's close, but it has taken us far too long to score, and that pass is going to be deflected. It's hard to believe that number 39 was able to disrupt this pass, but to just get on the board, the smart move is to settle for 3. And honestly, trust the defense, because up to this point, they've done everything that they've needed to. Here on 3rd and 5, we are going to not get the interception, but like expected, a stop was forced, and I do have some bad news. We're missing 2 of our linemen, and Mark Wallace sprained his elbow out for 4 weeks, so that means even if we're able to pull this off, the playoffs are not going to be easy. On 1st and goal, Texas is up to 17 points, but this play from Adam Morse is going to tie it right back up, and going into the 4th quarter, it's going to be a tight finish. We're both 10 and 2, and I see man-to-man coverage, so I'm going to throw it to our best wide receiver, and that means Adam Morse set a school record, and that makes this a huge game for him. Hopefully we can get the win. On 4th and 1, they're picking it up, but even if they score, we're going to get the ball back with the chance to win, so I'm not too worried. I mean, ideally, I'd like to end it down on the goal line, but I don't know if we can get 4 stops in a row inside the 5, and the run is clearly not working, so they've gone with the pass. I got stuck on man-to-man coverage, and I gave up a touchdown. You definitely hate to see it, but we should still be able to get into field goal range. It won't be much of an issue, because we still have a minute on the clock and 3 timeouts, and we're also just dotting them up until this interception. Okay, I really take back everything I was saying. I was kind of hoping that all of that positive talk would just give me the momentum and the convincing I needed. Now they're going to get a 1st, so I think we can all tell where this is going to go. That corner route created a lot of separation, but he still scrambled for the 1st, trucked our guy, and what is happening? There is no quarterback on the planet that should be running like that. I need to let him get into the end zone, because I'd at least like a chance at trying to tie it up. He's just breaking everything, and let's see how far Adam Morse can throw the ball. I think we're going to go with the same shakes concept up the middle. This time Coleman is going to hold on to it, and something with this alignment doesn't feel right. There's not really anybody out there on him on this play, so we're going to see the 50-50 ball, and and he comes down with it. Oh my gosh, this is so much pressure for one play, but the corner route to him didn't get open, and you know what? We're just gonna have to throw it. It's not getting far enough. And props to the Texas defense for knowing I was looking right back in his direction. Seeing them lift this trophy is gonna be very hard to watch, but I do have some good news as we didn't fall out of the top 12, and that's the fact that we've made our first college football playoff since getting the death penalty. I mean, Adam Morris did lead the country in passing yards by over 1,000, so I'd hope we'd get to see a player of his caliber at least play in them, but we probably need to run the ball more and cut out on the turnovers. Senior Patrick Gatewood put up some respectable numbers at wide receiver, and didn't we play BYU in a bowl game last year? If I'm remembering things right, that's great for both of these programs, and it seems to be a pretty even matchup as approaching halftime we are tied all up at 7, and that crossing route is getting open to Gatewood. When you see some of the windows that Adam Morris throws into, it's no surprise he throws so many picks, but from what I've seen, teams back up their safety so far against him and they are scared to face off. He is going to throw it up to Sam James, who comes down with it, and that could have very well been an interception, but it wasn't. Now we're going to roll out and miss the throw. I honestly think Adam Morris just needs a little bit more time to develop because he doesn't feel like a championship caliber quarterback yet, and I'd love to say that this defense does, but we've let him go all the way down the field on us in less than a minute, so going into the half it's going to be tied up at 10, and this is a tough opening round matchup. They're playing us much tougher than their overall says, but we are going to score here, and we've kept that 7-point lead, but it's still tight. Here on 3rd and 5, it's a 50-50 ball, and Terrell is going to come away with the interception, so if we can manage to get out of this bad situation down on the goal line, we should be able to win. Wallace gets the first, and I feel like if he wouldn't have stumbled there, that could have gone to the house. I'm also very surprised to see him out there considering it said he was going to be hurt for 4 weeks, but you know what? He's played most of the game. He's done a great job, and whenever I use the playoff tool to get the playoffs in here, it probably advances far longer than it should in NCAA football, but that's okay. Having him gives me some hope against Virginia Tech, and if you're wondering what the full playoff picture looks like, it's this. Virginia Tech's undefeated, so this next one's going to be tough, and with a number 7 back there, it looks like they have Michael Vick at quarterback. They've already won 2 championships on this dynasty file, so I am legitimately scared of them, but we could get a goal line hold here. On 3rd and 5, they went with the halfback screen. I just need somebody to get out there, and of course they fight in. What I'm noticing is their defense is very solid, and I'd assume that's how they've won so many championships, but that also means whenever we can score points, we need to make sure that we take them. It might have resulted in 3 field goals, but that's a lot better than none, and we just need to end the half with a few more points and we'll be okay. Of course, I would love for it to be a touchdown because if it's not, we're still going to be behind 2 possessions, but they are not falling for our play action, and you know what? Let's just see if our fastest receiver can outrun their safety, and he cannot. Fortunately, we have had a very solid drive to start the 3rd quarter, but we also need to hold their offense. They're going with the halfback screen. I couldn't quite get over there to intercept it, but you know what? I am proud that we're back within a possession. For a while, it didn't seem too winnable, but now we have some confidence, and why am I getting pressured almost immediately and fumbling the football? Okay, I shouldn't have said anything. I mean, this is just the worst awareness from number 79, and I probably should have thrown it away, but I didn't want to get called for an intentional grounding. Now, no matter what happens here, we're down by 2 possessions. If we're going to remain in it, we probably should try to score quick. I just don't see much open, and I'm very reluctant to taking checkdowns at this point because we're going to need to score fast. It is not the end of the world. Our season is not over. We have some timeouts remaining, and I'm going for the deep post. I'm sending it. That was not the right decision. Okay, you can make comments, but just know this team is going to be even better next season, and I can promise Adam Morris wants to get revenge. Our loss came against the eventual winners of it all, so I can't even be upset, and I just can't get over how dominant Virginia Tech's been. Don't get me wrong, we're losing a couple of key pieces like Mark Wallace, Patrick Gatewood, and all the way down here at middle linebacker Brian Brown, but I don't think losing those players is going to hurt us much. We just hired a level 27 defensive coordinator, which is massive, and we've proven that we can make the college football playoffs, so now all we have to do is take the number 10 class in the country and use some of these players as starters and depth pieces because they're so good, while also just moving some players around so we have more depth at positions like halfback. The biggest thing though is how these training results came out, and Adam Morris going up by 4 is big. I mean, we still had some losers like Nate Merritt at fullback, but all around positions like our offensive line had some really huge upgrades, and I think it's time to move all of my skill points over from recruiting to now being in game management where we get some amazing boosts. To make things even more interesting, I'm going to go ahead and put Virginia Tech on our schedule near the end of the year, and after putting up these crazy stats, I am so pumped up to see what junior Adam Morris can do. We're projected to be a top 10 team, which is a great start to this season, but after losing last year's, I want to make sure that we can win an SEC championship, and that probably is all dependent on how Adam Morris does. I'm not going to jump into these first few games, so we just have to sim to the Alabama one, and it looks like we're getting a really good offensive start. We've put up more than 40 on every team, but we haven't budged up the polls much yet, and somehow, despite losing 2 games already, Alabama's ranked 18th in the country. We have such a big overall advantage over them, I shouldn't be too worried about simming it, and Tennessee has yet to win a game, so this is another one that we should be able to just skip championship over. It's so nice that we can effortlessly just get some wins now, but my favorite team could give us some issues, and I've been impressed at how well they've done on this file. I don't think they're going to have the speed to keep up with our best receiver, and Brad Turner's been averaging 2 touchdowns a game. At halfback, we do have a new running back. He used to be our wide receiver. It is Sam James, and I don't know why he hasn't switched his number, but he's going to have a weird one. Brad Turner's already set a school record as well, and it's amazing to see him having this much success after he was pretty rough as a freshman, and he's going to get another. I don't think you all understand how good this team really is, and after getting the death penalty, it took a long time to get to this point, but it's well deserved. I think we could very well go undefeated, but sometimes the sim on this game can be a little bit weird, and in the next 3 weeks, we're playing 3 top 6 teams, and since we've already played Florida a bunch, I'm going to sim it where we win by 6. If it wasn't for Auburn, we would have already clinched a spot in the SEC championship, but before we take them on, we need to get revenge. Just like last year when we played them in the playoffs, Virginia Tech is undefeated, and their roster has gotten even better since then. They didn't lose their starting quarterback or running back, which is a bit concerning, but I'm still confident we can win, and that is going to be a lateral into the end zone, I think. He just got stopped a little bit short, but if it was successful, you could not tell me that this would not have been the sickest play in a while. It works out because we're still going to be able to easily get in the end zone, but ever since that moment, Virginia Tech's held us scoreless, which is a bit concerning. We're not used to getting stopped as we have one of the best offenses in the country, and they're going to intercept us on the goal line, so we have to start the third quarter by getting into the end zone, and I'm going right back to that type of play, which is an amazing catch. We need to get Roger Hairston more targets because this play showed that he just wanted it more, and it's not a thing on NCAA football, but I feel like I'm playing on Madden arcade mode right now because we've gotten so many insane animations in this game, and I really want to go for another one, but we're just going to toast the defense. We're so lucky that all of these players came into college at the same time and they've been able to develop together, because now that they're really starting to mesh, it is showing on the field, and on 3rd and 11 we get the sack. It's really not been as difficult as I thought it might be to maintain our lead in this one, and it might have looked like it live, but this was not ruled a catch. And on top of that, Virginia Tech is punting us the ball back instead of challenging it, or instead of going for it on 4th and 10 with only 3 minutes remaining. I'm okay with that because it let us seal our win pretty easily, and Adam Morris is still in the Heisman conversation, but somehow the Hokies running back is still above him. Maybe that'll change if he can perform well against number 3 Auburn, and I'm just glad that this one's at home. So far, from what I've seen out of the Tigers, I don't understand how they're ranked where they are in the country right now, because they've showed almost no resistance and their defense has been atrocious. With a few seconds left in the first half, they go with the read option, and why did he keep it? We just got a free 2 points, and we might be able to get a field goal out of it as well if this kick return is far enough, but that is crazy what a couple of holding penalties can do to you, and let's just test out the arm strength of our best quarterback. Honestly, I respect this effort from Brad Turner, but we all knew he was never pulling that ball in. We're just going to go with one last play to end the half, and how on earth did we almost score? He was stopped a bit short, which is really unfortunate, but Auburn just doesn't feel like a top 3 team in the country, and with a minute and a half left in the third quarter, I'm going to try to thread the needle, which is going to work. Sometimes you just have to trust Adam Morris to find the best receiver on the field, even if it's a very tight window, and from what I've seen, our undefeated season is pretty safe. Until the SEC championship, we shouldn't be challenged again, and I might as well just go ahead and advance all the way there. Against South Carolina, we're at home and the better team, so that was expected, and Georgia Tech has made it a real rivalry again over the last few years, but we had to beat them bad. Just like last year, our SEC championship opponent is going to be Texas, and as I'm scrolling through all these top 25 teams, I'm noticing that they're the highest overall team that's up here. It's going to be difficult, but with a good performance, Adam Morris will seal the Heisman, and it's going to be a very even matchup. On the bright side, we have the #1 offense in the country, so I'd like to say that we have a bit of an advantage, but we have to be able to back it up on the field, and what on earth was that play call? For some reason, Adam Morris didn't hand it off on the jet sweep, and now he is missing passes, but after getting this far down the field, I don't want to settle for 3, so we are going for it on 4th down, and there is a lot of time back here if we had some blockers. I was fully expecting number 74 to pick up this defensive end, but he didn't, so it's probably going to take us until the end of the first quarter to score a touchdown, but you know what? At least we're going to get onto the board first. Assuming he gets open right here, I'm going right back to Wesley Coleman, and I honestly wish this could just turn into a blowout, but that's not the case. Texas has made it very clear that just like last season, they're able to keep up with us, and their quarterback's also in the Heisman race, so he cannot have a good game. It's a bit surprising to see them playing so passively here, but that also reminds me that if we would have done the same thing, it would be tied up at 10-10 right now, and instead, we're going to go into the half down by 3. Unless Brad Turner can just dust this safety, I wanted to try to burn him over the top, and that's what happened. I love to throw in a low play action because it makes the computer bite down sometimes, but what is that? I mean, number 42 just shot up this gap, and no one even tried to block him, so it seems like our odds of scoring 7 are greatly reduced, but you know there's one guy I gotta go to. Before we settle for 3, I'm going to give him one more shot to get us into the end zone, and I don't think he created enough separation, so all of that is just going to make it 10-10 at the half, and the SEC championship has always been tough. With about 4 minutes remaining, it's still the same difference, and they are on a 3rd and 12, but we are just not generating enough pressure, so I hate to say it, but we're probably about to go down by 7, and it's hard to believe believe, but they've just run the ball 3 times. That was not the right decision for them to make, because I can promise you, unlike last season, we are not going to mess up this final drive if we have an opportunity. There's only 2 minutes left, so it's all going to come down to this. And why is Roger Hairston so open? He was able to get by that safety, get us inside the red zone. And sometimes you have to wonder what these defenders are trying to cover, because I don't get it. With a couple straight runs, though, we've gotten the clock under about 30 seconds, and we're going to pick up the first, which is good because I don't want to leave any time on the clock for Texas, but I accidentally took a delay of game, and that's because it's Saturday, so I'm checking college football scores. Kentucky is destroying Florida, and there's the touchdown. We have won the SEC championship with Georgia again, and it's all thanks to Adam Morris, because I think it took us 9 seasons from the death penalty to get to this point. Of course, our star won the Heisman with 57 total touchdowns, and that's no surprise since he led the nation in passing yards, while also having a 51-9 touchdown to interception ratio. It's incredible with those passing stats we still rushed for this many yards. And at the top of the receiving charts is Brad Turner, who ended up winning the Biletnikoff with 21 touchdowns. There's definitely some interesting teams in this playoff picture, but of course if Virginia Tech wins, we have to play them again, and I'm rooting super hard for Notre Dame to get in here and end those chances. I don't want to face off against a quarterback and a halfback that were in the Heisman race, and there's been a lot of questionable play calling, like a halfback draw with that little time left, but they're still not out of it. They've been moving the ball down the field, and they're going to get near the end zone. That's all it takes for them to have a decent chance on this Hail Mary where the ball is up and it is knocked down. Thank goodness we are playing against Notre Dame instead, and the reason I'm happy about that is besides Clemson, they haven't beaten a top 25 team, so I like our odds going into this quarterfinal matchup. After stopping them on their first drive, it looks like we're going to finish ours off with a touchdown. If we could have pitched it in time, what is happening there? That should have been a touchdown. I don't know why it took so long to pitch, but we just can't seem to have anything nice. There's always something like that happens. This should not be a defensive battle. Our offense is way too good to be in a situation like this, and I'm hoping we can finish this one off in style up the middle to Turner. I guess since it is the playoffs, we shouldn't expect any of these matchups to be easy. I'm going to try to roll around with Adam Morris, and he is going to lose the football for the second time today. If we could cut out these stupid mistakes, we would be up by 14 points right now, but instead we're just trying to force a safety, and I don't think we're going to get it. That was a very frustrating way to end the first half, but we need to play better on offense, and that means taking our checkdowns, which seems to work out. We're going to go to our former wide receiver, Sam James, and keeping the ball on the ground has not worked for us many times since we've gotten into the red zone, but I'm hoping this is the drive where we avoid the fumble, and it is. On a 3rd and 5, Notre Dame goes with the halfback screen, and I'm not sure we were prepared for it, but since their running back hesitated there, they're going to be forced to settle for a field goal. That is a blessing, because ever since then, we're just going to continue to run down the clock, and this is a massive 3rd and 3 where we're going with the counter with Sam James. He has the speed to get the outer edge, plus a lot more. He fought for a lot of yards there, and now he's getting up from it and getting even extra. That is the effort you want to see out of your running back, and I'm very happy we're in this position now, but if we don't score a touchdown, it's not going to matter, and I went with the pass instead, but before I could even hit the bubble screen, they already got in instant pressure. That is incredibly frustrating. I'm going to need to make the right read, step up here, and just throw it into that tight window, but our receiver and quarterback couldn't hook up, and we're going to have to trust our defense one final time. Of the 2 units we have, it is certainly the weaker one, but I'm still confident we'll be able to get a stop, and since man-to-man coverage isn't working, we're going to have to switch it up and go with the zone instead, and that was enough to confuse the Notre Dame quarterback. Hits 3rd and 18, now we get another sack, so I'd pretty much say this game is over. None of those routes are going for first downs, and we are moving on to the semifinals. Brad Turner ended up winning player of the game, and it looks like SMU is coming off of a loss to Miami. That's going to make our path to the championship a bit harder, especially since this is being played in Hard Rock Stadium, and that's quite the unfair advantage for the Hurricanes to get to play at home, but complaining about it won't solve anything, so we're just going to have to work with the cards we've been dealt and take care of business on corner routes like this. Here on a 3rd and 14, we are looking to get a stop. I'm going to stay with the slant, and no one's gotten in enough pressure, which is very unfortunate, but on the next play, we forced a massive interception, and now we have a chance to go down the field and go up 14, except we're going to fumble the football. It's honestly remarkable how many times we can turn the ball over and still stay in games plus win them, but I'm afraid that it's eventually going to catch up to us, and on 3rd and 7, their quarterback has nobody to throw to. We should have picked that. I mean, we were blessed with the fact that they missed the field goal and didn't score any points, but I'm still not happy with the fact that we've only put up 7, and we should have never gone with a halfback draw on 3rd down. Holding them to 0 in the first half is a really big deal. We're going to get the sack with Sanders, but we still need to get some more offensive momentum going, and since that never happened, it's going to be a close game that comes down to the wire. We need a 3rd down stop, but Mike Adams was just able to fight his way in, and now it's up to Adam Morris to help seal this win. We're going to need at least 1 or 2 more first downs, and after seeing how Sam James just went down, I don't think he's seeing the field again. That was painfully hard to watch, but they have pressed Brad Turner, and I don't know why they would do that. We're going to cook that cornerback and take it into the house. That's going to put him in the school record books for another thing, and until then, Miami did such a good job of making us beat them underneath instead of over the top. Now we're going to get the interception, and this should be game. That is all we needed, but I guess if they somehow somehow get a safety, they'd only be behind by one possession, and there's the run from Johnson. We're going on to play in the national championship, and it would be sick if our opponent was Boise State. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like they were able to outscore Wisconsin, and we might have a hard time stopping Craig Williams. All I know is we have made it too far to lose now, but the Badgers do have some quality wins on their schedule, and their overall holds up pretty well against us. We have the top 2 offenses in the country, and it's time to fully bounce back from the death penalty. It has been a very long 9 to 10 seasons, but after going from a 5-star school to a 1-star school, we are looking to become a 5-star school again if we win. And here on a 3rd and 21, we're going to get a sack or not. He broke it, but we're still going to force him out of bounds. And that means they're still going to get points, but not as many as they could have. By the start of the second quarter, they've maintained that lead, but I want to try throw it up to Brad Turner, and that was a bad decision. Since I kept my eyes glued on him, we didn't look at any of our other open reads, and all I can do is hope that we get the stop here on 3rd and 12, which we're going to do. Every single time the computer runs a screen pass, it looks rough, but so has our offense so far, and we're going to go for the same thing, which is going to work to Turner. It's kind of weird that our offense was so dominant all year, but in the playoffs it struggled a bunch, and I'm glad that Brad Turner was able to find the end zone there, but we left some time on the clock for Wisconsin, and they might be able to break free if we don't make a tackle. That was a massive play, and we might even be able to get more points before the half, but our starting halfback drops the ball. Since Sam James is out with an injury from that last game, we have no choice but to start him, and we are not going to pick up the 3rd down. So that's definitely a little disappointing, but we still have a lead. We're in Wisconsin's red zone again, and this time I'm looking in Hairston's direction, who doesn't hold on to it. Honestly, we've been pretty fortunate that we haven't dealt with drops like this until this game in the season, but we desperately need our big-time players to make big-time plays. And you know what? I'm going to put this one in the hands of Adam Morris. Let's roll around and just find Brad Turner in the end zone, which is exactly what we needed. On 3rd and 4, I don't see anybody getting open. We just have to get a sack. Come on. It's kind of crazy that we could dominate SEC play the way that we did, but now that we're in this position, we're struggling. And what was that? This ball almost went right through our cornerback's hands, and it's time for our defense to clutch up on the goal line, but we just don't make a tackle. We probably have no choice but to send the house at them, and they were prepared for it. So it's going to come down to a 2-point conversion, and they went with the quarterback draw. I don't know what they were thinking there, but we sniffed it out almost perfectly. And since they're so desperate to get a stop, I could sense the blitz. You know that Brad Turner is going to cook that corner. Honestly, all it takes is defenses playing a bit more aggressive on us, because we can go over the top or down on the ground, and that's a deadly combo because you never know what's coming, assuming Brad Turner is going to come down with this football. He didn't create enough separation though, so now I'm a little bit concerned because it's taken Wisconsin almost no time to move it down the field, and they're also already in field goal range, so they don't have much to worry about. I went away from that, and he is going to get a 1st down somehow, so I thought it was smart to just let them score and guarantee we get the ball back. I know that I have made this game 10 times harder to win than it needed to be. We were already in a decent position, but look at Johnson go. He got the perfect blocks on the kick return, and should we take this to the house or should we go down at the 1? You know what? Let's just jump in the end zone. Mike Johnson just got the longest kick return in NCAA football history, and he has filled in amazing, not only as a backup halfback, but also as our kick returner. You don't normally expect that much out of the sophomore, but we need to make sure they don't get into field goal range, and why are we leaving that open? It's like whenever we don't play man-to-man coverage, they just manage to get what they want. We forced the fumble though, and since they were so reluctant to using their final timeout, all they can do is go for the Hail Mary. I'm fully prepared for one final heave, but they go with the quarterback run instead, and please tell me this isn't going to work. I can't lie, for a split second, I was a little worried, but in the end, I've made Georgia fans happy again, and I thought this death penalty concept was a super interesting one, so if you want to see me do it with other teams, make sure to let me know in the comments. And I'm so proud of all this NFL talent we were able to produce in Georgia, as in the short time we spent here, Adam Morris, Josh Chandler, and Brad Turner broke a lot of school records. Anyways, that wraps up this rebuild, and if you haven't seen this one yet, I would highly recommend watching it.